When you got into the trade, and this is a non-standard question, Cam, but when you got in the trade and you've been there a little bit, what's one thing that is different than what you expected? Like something simple.
Hmm. That's an interesting one. Something I expected.
Yeah.
Um,
Whether think of it this way. So something you expected. So day one, you walk in day one, and you think this specific thing is going to be super easy to do or learn or whatever. And it turns out 5 years later, it's like it was never going to be super easy to learn, or something that you thought was going to be super hard ended up being super easy.
well, I kind of got into the trade in an unconventional way. I didn't just go apply at a shop, sort of. I The first thing I did on a car was an engine swap.
What?
Well, an oil change, but then an engine swap. Yeah. I had bought my first car when I was 16, 17, G2, whatever, Ontario, right?
Uh huh.
I took it to my uncle's shop. Well, not his shop, but he was service advisor at actually Brampton Mazda. Someone here listening probably know. Um, and my mom was like, get it inspected. So they said there was an oil leak, and I was like, no. Yeah, a month later, my engine packed its bags on the 403. And I was like, I've been taking things apart and putting them together my whole life. Like, might as well try this, right? Like, what else doesn't make sense why I wouldn't try, right? It's very expensive. So I
Mm-hmm.
went out and bought all the tools. I bought an engine crane, I bought an engine, and I bought like a Mastercraft kit. And it took me like 2 weeks. I didn't get it fully running, but I got it in, and like it was cranking. I was
Mm-hmm.
satisfied with that. And I was like, wow, people pay for this. And then I got into it. So I went from initially like being my first, like I hadn't even done brakes, or like even like something so simple as changing tires. And I just immediately was like, okay, we're gonna put an engine in this car. I ended
Mm-hmm.
up having that car for like another 2 years. It's fine. It's great.
That's
Um,
all, and that's funny. Your first job was
Probably the
for
biggest.
yourself, doing
Yeah.
yourself, and your first job as a mechanic was an engine swap. Okay, that's pretty cool.
So
Was it a
then
Civic?
it was an Integra. I put a B20 in it.
So funny story, and why is Honda? It's
It's always
funny story. So I bought a Civ. So I I traded my SRT4 for cash and a Civic.
okay.
It was a white coupe, and I drove it for about a month, and I got on a real Honda kick. Like it was I like the only reason the trade happened was because he couldn't come up with the extra $1,500. So it's like, here, just take my car and this cash. I've got this cash, and then okay, fine. I need wheels. We made it work. And then all of a sudden, I started to enjoy it, but it was slow as slow can possibly be. So of course, I went down the rabbit hole of all of the like. I've been doing lots of mopar stuff most of my career at that stage. I'd never done anything Honda related. I'd never
Yeah.
truly done anything Honda related at the time.
Hmm.
So I had that white coupe for about a month. Pretty sure it was a D15 in it. I think it's going back a while,
Late
but it was
late
so
'90s,
slow.
early 2000.
Yeah, I think it was a 90. I think it was a 97.
Yeah, because '01 they went to the 1.7.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, it was old. EK, I think is the brand. No, EK is the hatch, right? No, EK, no, EK coupe, EK, whatever.
Yeah.
So it was a coupe. It was a single, definitely a single cam,
Hmm.
and it was so slow.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, okay, I need something. I like this Honda thing. I like this Honda thing. So I found another Honda Coupe, but I found an SI. But he had a, and I probably got the wool. I completely had the wool pulled over me completely. I was so deep down the hole that I absolutely needed a Honda with a twin cam in it.
Mhm.
So it was supposedly a B. I think what is it? B18 C5. Does that sound about right? GSR.
Yeah.
So
And then the
went to
C1.
pick it up. I
Yeah.
got it. I still had the white coupe. I got it. I drove this black coupe around the block. Fine. At the time, absolutely fine. Paid the money because I'd been dropped off. Started driving home. Across the 401. And this is crossing, I think it was a 401 just past the 407. Motor gone
Yeah.
on the side of the 401 15 minutes after buying it.
That was me. 403 in Mississauga Road. Man, I thought my music was getting louder.
Yeah.
I thought the hi-hats
So
and the snares were coming in, and then all of a sudden everything went quiet.
I definitely got taken advantage of, and I definitely let myself get taken advantage of. And I gathered enough money together to get. I don't even remember what I bought next. To be completely honest, I don't know what the series of cars was after that. But I got rid of both Hondas. Like that whole experience, like yeah, GSR, yeah,
Oh,
crash and burn.
so interested in it, and then I was like, "This is a piece of shit."
It was just not the experience that it definitely wasn't the second car experience in Honda that I ever wanted to repeat ever again. So
Mhm.
I took me forever, but I got rid of everything and just moved completely on. But it was 401 and 407, but that's not that far away from the 403 in Mississauga Road.
Nope, I'm in Milton. That's like 5 minutes from here, actually. 407. You're like a stone's throw from your car blew up right there, eh?
Yeah,
That's rough.
it was like a $500 tow bill.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
It
believe it.
was anyway.
Did you live
I
in
digress.
Waupaga at the time? Still?
Pardon?
Did you like live up north still at the time?
Oh no. I was living in the city at the time, so we were
Oh,
living in
okay.
Richmond Hill. We were living just we
Well,
were in North Richmond Hill, so Oak Ridges.
that's still a trek.
So I still had a ways to go to get home.
Where you were, that's a trek. Like for me to go to
Yes.
Richmond Hill right now, I'm not happy. I'm not happy to go to Richmond Hill right now. That's
No, but
across the board.
realistic but ultimately speaking, that's why we left Richmond Hill, because where we were renting a basement apartment. Two wonderful people were our landlords. Two absolutely wonderful people were our landlords. But we're in Oak Ridges, and if anybody out there knows anything about Richmond Hill and about Oak Ridges, is we were in the center of that subdivision, which basically meant it was 20 minutes to get anywhere.
Oh, really?
Because it took us almost 10 minutes to get out of Oak Ridges to where there was a grocery store. Like it was like 18 minutes to get to a grocery store.
Oh, so you're like just deep in like subdivisions.
Deep in subdivision, but because Oak Ridges is north, and it was just at the time, this is going back a ways now, a bit of a
Yeah.
time, but it was just subdivision at the time, because it's kind of where the urban crawl is happening. It's urban crawl is going south from Aurora and north of Richmond Hill. So they were building apartment buildings and they were building houses, but they weren't building anything else.
There
Like
was no infrastructure.
the strip malls at the edges of subdivisions, like the corner store, a chiropractor's office, and daycare. That's what was in our strip mall, right? That's it.
Yeah.
That's not common staples. That's not going to the grocery store. That's not going to the hardware store. That's not going to, all the places you frequent on a regular basis, let alone work, right?
Even
And
rabbit.
the funny story is, like, you have the same difficulty probably where you are, where like I was. I used to commute from Richmond Hill to Markham, which they're neighboring towns,
Yeah.
fundamentally speaking. It took me 45 minutes to get to work. When I started working closer to downtown, when I worked at Mercedes while I was in Richmond Hill, it took me an hour and 10 minutes to drive. I think it was 30 kilometers, give or take.
Wow.
Like, it was ridiculous.
I'm
Ridiculous. And it's basically just straight south. Like, straight south. Bathurst basically got us most of the way, all the way down, like, asinine. Okay, so you've blown up you've blown up your first Honda,
Yeah.
did an engine swap into a B20, got tools. So what transpired between that and you getting your first job turning wrenches? Like, did you start at a dealer? Did you start an independent?
No, it was like independent. It was like sketchy, like Ocott would have shut him down, kind of independent. I was $15 an hour flat rate, level
Oh
nothing.
well, that's more than my first offer at flat rate at 9.
If the boss showed up, it would have been good. Like he was there, but like there was also times where like slowly he would start coming in later and later and later, and it's like okay, I'm sitting there and I'm like, where's the work, right? So I
Hmm.
went. Um, well, I'll go back a little. So when I couldn't get the car started,
Mm-hmm.
my dad's girlfriend's uh, my dad's girlfriend's sister's husband. A little bit of
Oh
a
my goodness.
yeah.
Okay.
So basically, my step uncle, you would call it, right?
Okay.
Essentially, his mechanic. They worked at the Ford plant in Oakville together,
Mm-hmm.
like at the assembly plant down on Ford Drive. And he was like, "Just take it to him. He's good." And him and I got along. And he was like, "Wow, you've never turned a wrench before, and you did this." And he's like, "I'll call you if I need anything." So I ended up actually working for him, and like for quite a while, like on and off. Like I had keys to that shop, and there a whole bunch of stuff. We would do everything. So I got a really good experience working on garbage, like like early 2000s Ford shit boxes. Like you're pulling cowls to do the ignition coil and the Windstar. Like you remember that lovely job? It's not that fun. Nobody loves doing it, but like I got to do like all that old crap that if I was working at maybe more of a like a institutionalized shop, we probably wouldn't be working on that stuff because people just aren't coming to pay for it. They're going to guys like this, right? So I
But I
got
think
it.
I think that's a misnomer at the same time though. Because the challenge is, we say customer experience is a really big thing in the industry right now.
Mhm.
Fundamentally speaking, shops like that are frequented by people that think they're getting a deal when fundamentally they're not really getting a deal, right? You're talking about sketchy, right? You and think about Richmond Hill. There's lots of sketchy in Richmond Hill.
Mhm.
And 10, 15 years ago, you could drive through Bathurst or Yonge Street, and you could find all of the little off streets in industrial complexes or commercial complexes. And this is something that doesn't exist up here up north, but you drive through those industrial complexes, and there's strip malls worth of industrial buildings that
Yep.
are basically shop, like ice cube tray shops, where it'd be like I don't know, 100 feet of one building, like a strip
Mhm.
mall, but instead of it being doors into like uh, um, shampoo store and then the video store and then the convenience store, it would literally be shop, shop, different kind of shop, 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 and it's one guy, one hoist, an oil change bucket, an air compressor, and you know in that part of Richmond Hill, especially where my buddy Jean was in his shop, it would be somewhat different ethnicity going in each bracket. It would be Armenian here, and then the Indie here, and so on and so on and so on. And it's kind of their grouping of people. They
Yeah.
weren't necessarily getting a deal. It was just their community and
Yeah.
their customer experience. You know, that community expected a certain level of customer experience based on their community in that way from that person. Were they actually spending less? No. Were they actually getting better service? No. But they had a much higher level of trust because they could physically go in and talk to the person working on their car. It's like, hey, Joe, I need my car fixed. When can you get it in? And Joe would say, I can see you Tuesday at 2, or Tuesday. In all likelihood, it was, can you drop it off Tuesday morning? Yes, I'll drop it
Mhm.
off Tuesday morning. Oh, and they wouldn't be asking for a loaner car because Joe didn't have loaner cars. Joe
No.
didn't have a shuttle bus. You just had to figure stuff out, right?
Yeah.
We've at the dealership level, we give all of these luxuries to our guests who come in and service with us, but we've had to do that to show that we are more valuable, even
Yeah.
though we might actually be charging the same thing.
Yeah. So this guy was his community, you would call it, is all the ex Ford workers or all the workers at Ford, the assembly plant. So they're all driving old Fords that they don't want to pay to get fixed at the dealer, right?
I see.
And
Okay,
the
makes
shop
sense.
was right by the assembly plant. So we'd come and pick it up while you're on your shift. Go back to the shop and fix it. And
Hmm.
it, it was actually like a fun operation to be part of when I was like 17. You know what I mean? Like I didn't care. But then when I graduated high school, because I hadn't I had no drive. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I had drive, but I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. And then this whole
Hmm.
engine swap thing happened, and I was like, people pay for this? Nice. Let's go.
Hmm.
I'm going this route. Um, right. I was working in kitchens my whole since I was 14 years old. So like my number one thing is like I can fix my food and I can fix my meal or fix my meals and fix my cars. I'm good. You know what I mean? Two
Hmm.
most essential things that people pay a lot of money for both services. Um,
Hmm.
right? If you can't cook and you can't do basic repairs on things like there's lacking
Some
something
folks
is
aren't
lacking.
taught that stuff. Like I had the luxury of having parents and grandparents who actively showed me how to cook, and
Yeah,
thankfully enough, one of the reasons why I became a mechanic in the first place is my grandfather actively showed me how to fix shit.
yeah. No
Right?
one in
That's
my family did. I just was like, this is fun.
right,
it
but fundamentally speaking, learning how to do those things, if you don't have the opportunity, like if you don't get that opportunity at home for one reason or another, whether your parents fix things, whether it's food or cars or
Mhm.
something else. There's lots of families out there with contractors in their family, so somebody can learn from somebody about basic hand tools and basic repair in their home. Somebody might have an electrician in the family or in the extended family that might be able to come over and help them out with something electrical related that they learn a little bit this and that from, that might elicit a little bit of, oh hey, I could do that for a living, or you
Yeah,
know
my cousin was actually the one who came by when I was working on the car,
mhm.
and he was a plumber by trade, and he had been into Hondas before too. So he had done like his Frankenstein, B18 head swapped B20 bottom end, right? Like he had already done that himself
Yeah.
just by teaching himself, and like he taught me like I did my very first oil change at his house. This was before the car blew up, obviously, but I'm not blaming him because he made sure I put the right oil capacity in it. I just never checked my oil. There is a photo.
The old adage, if there's no oil under it, there's no oil in it. It wasn't quite a learned thing yet.
Yeah, so I actually have a photo, and I'm gonna send it to you, and
Awesome.
you're gonna put it right here on the screen right now. This is a photo of my first oil change. I got under my Acura. I had driven from like Winston Churchill and 403 all the way to Sandalwood and 410, where he lived in Brampton. I got
Uh-huh.
under that car, I drained the oil, and I was like, okay, cool. I got to change the filter now. And you know those old Hondas, the 3974 or whatever, fucking big
Yeah.
filter, that big
Yep.
3974 on the back above the axle. I
Yep.
just untwisted that. I didn't know I was going to get covered in like a liter of hot oil. I was wearing a white t-shirt.
I
I was wearing
I
a
remember
white
my first Honda oil change. I remember doing exactly the same thing.
covered,
The
bro.
worst part
Covered.
is I was stupid enough to be doing it really fast. So of course, what did I do? Hand up on the exhaust.
Oh,
Yes, that was because you have to go around, because the manifold comes from the front, down the
yeah,
front. Got a
yeah.
catalytic converter comes that, unlike most where like my neons, where the exhaust comes out the back and almost hits the firewall. The catalytic converter is right in the tunnel at the very top. Not have to worry about the oil filter at the bottom. You never have to worry about that. But
Mhm.
on Hondas, it comes down the front and through, and you literally have to do like one of
But
these kind of deal to try and get up to get that oil filter on those old ones. And of course, are you going to burn yourself? Yes. Are you going to get covered in hot oil? Yes. Are you needing to be paid attention? Yes. Are you going to do that as this 18-year-old doing your first hot oil change? No.
and thank God that like him and my uncle, this is actually the uncle that worked at the Brampton Mazda, so it's all coming together now, right? Um, they had like a wood shop in their garage, so thank God they had all the sawdust to clean this up because it was everywhere. It was all
Everywhere.
over the driveway. Like it was horrible. But you know what? That was like one of those experiences that when that happened to me, I was like, I'm not giving up. I still love this.
Yeah.
It was my first time. I was like, this isn't going to stop me from doing this.
Yeah, I think the big one that stops a lot of young folks staying in the trade is when they realize that
It's hard work.
it's hard work, yes. Some of it's really shitty work. But realizing that in some circumstances, like we're talking about this old Honda in the circumstance, but there are some circumstances where it doesn't matter what you do. You
Mm-hmm.
can have all kinds of special tools. You can have all of the you can have, you can play the old school Rube Goldberg kind of thing with cardboard to try and make the oil splash the right way, and those the newfangled silicone moldable drip trays, and you can have all of the wonderful things sit in the oil drain bucket so it doesn't splash back up when the oil comes down. No
It's
matter what you do, some point almost every day, you're going to end up with hot oil in your armpit and it's going to suck balls. No matter
transmission
what
services are fun.
it's going to happen. You
Yeah.
can be 20 minutes in the trade, you can be 20 years in the trade. It's going to happen and it's going to suck because hot oil, especially hot diesel oil or worse, diesel fuel in your armpit really, really sucks.
It's not
And it's
fun.
going to continue to happen. And you have to realize that no matter what you do, no matter what you learn, you're going to have to go through really shitty experiences like that. The
Yeah.
flip side of that is you have to remember, in order to get through those really shitty moments, is that there's going to be some really, 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 really cool moments like you've just experienced on your very first time. It's like you did your very first foray into turning wrenches is doing your own engine swap.
Yeah.
That's super rewarding, super awesome. It's like, hey, I can do this. That
Yeah.
euphoric, just, I don't even have the right words to explain it, but those moments happen, I would say, once you get a couple years in, they happen at the same rate, right? You have a really awful day where you get completely drenched in diesel fuel because for whatever reason, the tank, you're dropping the tank on a 3500 to do a fuel pump or a transfer pump or some stupid thing, and for some reason the pump jack rolls a little bit, lands on a zip tie, and the whole fucking tank tips, and you end up with diesel fuel all over you. It's
Yeah.
gonna happen, right? The flip side is once you get done that, the really great sensation is once you're all done that, it's like, I didn't lose. I didn't let it beat me. I still finished it. I still got it done. I still made money doing it. Damn it.
Mhm.
That is the kind of thing that you have to start to build your.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, going back to your initial question, what I wasn't expecting was when I got my first, um, I would say, normal job, was at
Mhm.
Canadian Tire. And I'm like, well, why aren't you guys letting me do this stuff?
Mhm.
Why aren't you letting me do AC? What do you mean? Why aren't you letting me do valve cover gaskets on something? Why aren't you letting me do an oil pan or this and that? Oh, just do tires, oil changes. Come on, just do that. And I remember the shop foreman. He was a little bit of a hothead. He's calmed down now. Him and I still chat, but we're not like buddies or anything. But first day on the job, comes up to me and he's like, "If you were doing brakes on that, like, how would you do them?" And I'm like, "Oh, I get my clean flow Sil Glide and clean off those sliders, put some anti-seize under the clips, and then put Sil Glide on the brake pad, and put Sil Glide on the sliders, like the slider pins." And he's like, "Huh?" You're not even like registered. Like, where did you come from? How do you know how to just do brakes like that? I'm like, well, what are you putting anti-seize on slider pins? You fucking hack! And it kind of like got him back, and everyone was like, he does that. And then he kept asking me to do brakes for him. And he's like, oh,
Well,
you're good.
I think that I think it's changing a little bit. I don't know if it's changing a lot. I haven't got a chance to talk to as many young mechanics in the last year and a half as I'd like to understand where their perspectives are at. But
Mm-hmm.
I understand that there's still a lot of, shall we say, elder mechanics in the business who are still treating it like we were treated,
Oh,
which is
he's not even
unfortunate.
old. He's not
It
even
does,
old.
but it's generational, right? If they were taught by a hard ass
Yeah.
who would belittle, degrade, condescend, and altogether not trust the younger generation, even if they weren't actually younger,
Mm-hmm.
that like it's almost borderline trauma. Like I'm almost coming to a say where I want to use trauma as the word, because some of it's really degrading and really like it's life altering kind of negativity that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And when you experience that enough over a long enough period of time, it becomes part of you as well, and you start to do it. It's kind of that if you tell a lie often enough, you start to believe it yourself.
Yeah.
That same kind of concept. So when we as mechanics come up in that bowl of negativity and we see the bowl of negativity everywhere we go, like it's normal, it becomes normal for us as well. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I fundamentally that's part of why wrench tuners exist in the first place is
You
we
need to
need
talk
to
to
make
people and
as
let
much
people
positive
know.
bowls out there as physically possible so that we, especially the young mechanics coming into the industry, get as much positivity as we can possibly force feed them because the trade this trade is hard,
Mm-hmm.
but that doesn't mean you shouldn't stay in it.
It's constantly changing too, which makes it even harder, right?
Right,
Like,
right.
I'll admit, I never worked on a 48-volt system until 6 months ago. I had an E53 come in, all the rod bearings gone out of it. Has a 48-volt hybrid assist. A
Mm-hmm,
new E53, right? But it's
mm-hmm.
got the most expensive E53 in Ontario. Brand new crate engine from Benz, plus what he paid for the car. Should have just bought.
Well, I remember my first probably week at Ben's,
Mhm.
and same kind of circumstance. And this is when the C63s first came out.
Like
Like
204,
it was pardon?
W204, or
Yes,
W205. Is that
204s.
really different beasts?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
my boss has a
the
dirty
C63s were
204.
first out, and I guess something like it hadn't even had 2,000 kilometers on it or something like that. Motor gone. So at the time I was tower there, right? So I got to see parts pricing and everything else like that in the back end. I wasn't turning wrenches there. And for the first time truly seeing Ben's parts and understanding how much different pricing structures were for Ben's parts, that to see a car that's on the hoist, the car brand new is 65 at the time, 65 grand Canadian,
Mm-hmm.
and to see the parts bill for a crate motor from Benz with 57, not including labor or
57 for
fluids.
an M156, brand new
Yeah,
for the 6.2.
it was just like it was mind-boggling at the time. It was mind-boggling at the time, and to think that they somehow made the car. It takes me to the concept of like the A10. They built a plane around the gun. That's basically what they did with the car. They built a car around the engine. It's magnificent, but
It's a beautiful car.
anyway,
My boss has one. And he's got
beautiful.
like 315s on the back of that bitch, rolled the fenders, and that thing is just strictly meant to go fast. Like
It
that
is. Yep,
car is a
yep.
it is a
Make lots of 11s, make lots of noise, and go really, really, really fast.
he'll go to Cayuga and he'll he'll pull on Lambos. Like the guys will be like, what do you have in that car? And he's like, NA62, what do you have? What do you have?
It's but
And then
the
they're like,
best.
well, I
I
have a
think one of the best parts about those
5.3%.
204s is that they're so comfortable daily.
Yeah, yeah. It's a beautiful car. I love driving it.
I
It's
think the only thing that I would take Trying to remember now chassis codes. I'm still, even though I was in it and I lived and breathed it for almost 2 years, I still
I
forget
I work
quite
on them
easily.
every day, so you can hit me with the year, make, model, and I'll
What
give
was the
you that.
E55 supercharged?
W210.
Yeah, 210s. Okay, yep. So one of the techs
W211 is
had,
nice too, but the 210 E55 supercharged with the M113K.
yeah, it's.
Yeah,
I think if I was ever going to own a Benz by choice, and I could buy whatever Benz I wanted, but it was within somewhat reason, it would be one of those in a wagon. 210 Avant supercharged E55, because you
out of
put,
reason. If it was out of reason, it would definitely be like the DTM 190E, like the Hammerhead, old school.
considering they're like 5 million euros to buy one on an auction, yeah, that definitely would be outside of reason because they are so impossibly rare now.
I think Platinum Motor
Um,
Cars in Toronto has a 190, like an AMG 190 for like 500K.
yeah, they're stupid money just for like, but the DTM versions, you can buy them. They're out there. There's
Yeah,
like 10 or 15 of them, right? That you infrequently see on Instagram and stuff.
or like bring a
But there
trailer.
are the 190E Causies are out there. There's how many they made? They made like 2,500 of them or something like that.
I haven't done much research because they're out of my snack bracket. I just know that they're a sick car, and that was
They
before
are.
AMG was part of Benz. That was when AMG was tuning Benzes, and then Benz was like, "Oh, hey, we like you.
Yes.
We're buying you
Yes.
now." Fix
Yes. Very nice. Yes. So let's tuck into this a little bit more into more depth before we get too far off and into a rabbit hole where we should probably shoot the shit for like hours. Um. So you're turning wrenches, and you've now moved into Canadian Tire. You're basically getting the shit from the shit at Canadian Tire, doing tires, brakes, and oil changes.
Yeah.
What's happened between that and what do you and what you're doing today, and what are you doing today? So give us the story from then to now, and what are you doing today?
So I was working there for a couple years. I got tired of getting shit pay. The guy that I was apprenticing under, really good guy, super smart. Like he taught me so much stuff. I'm still best friends with him today. He's the guy that signed my book. I talk to him every day. We hang out.
Mm.
Like he comes over to my house. I go over to his house. Like we're best friends. And so I went to Ford. I worked at Ford for 2.5 years. I started working in the transmission department. The transmission rebuilder at the Ford dealer that I was at was like, he woke up in the morning, crushed 3 Strongbows, 2 Percocets, and he's good to go. He died 2 years ago. Like he's
I wonder why.
fucking weapon, bro. This guy had 3 DUIs. He had a collection. Like he was not good. And then I actually was going through a rough time in my life. And I was like not coming into work on time, and I was dealing with a whole bunch of mental and emotional stress, like the death of my family, and I was broken up with a girl at the time, just broken up, and the death happened, and I wasn't good, so they let me go. And I'm like, okay, you know what, fair game, you let me go. But I learned a fuck ton about how to rebuild transmissions from this old fucking guy that just hated life, hated everyone. You're talking about the trauma.
Mm.
This guy, he didn't like the music. He punched my fucking radio, and it was like a really nice radio. Like it was like one of the ones where it's like the old school tuner, and it was sitting on top of my mini fridge, and it had the additional speakers. I can't remember the brand.
I'm
Onkyo.
gonna pause you for a second. That answer right there, where he was so angry and so upset with so many things that if he didn't like the music, he would punch the stereo.
Yeah.
Now, this is somebody who is obviously not exactly fully
Same.
sound.
No. Bless his soul, because he taught me a lot. And I did go to his celebration.
Okay,
And
I agree. What I'm going with this is I put the level of noise, talking about noise and then talking about acceptable levels of noise. That's why I put that on the Wrench Turners Wellness Survey. That example right there is why I put it on the survey, because there are probably about a half a dozen right off the top of my head reasons that noise in the shop will set mechanics off.
Yeah.
There's way more than 6, but there's 6 fundamentally that will set one of us off on a bad day, because noise can literally be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Whether it's a door that no longer has padding, like the insulation around the door frame, so that when the steel door, because it has to be a steel door to the outside world, a steel door closes with the super hardcore springs that we have to use because mechanics absolutely bash the door when we go in that shop, so it has to be a hardcore spring. So when that door closes, if there's no padding there, it slams. So if the padding's gone, that noise that happens will literally get every mechanic in the shop back up.
Mm-hmm.
If an air leak is anywhere in any one of the hose runs or the steel or the copper or however the air runs throughout the shop, if there is an air leak somewhere and it doesn't get fixed, air leaks actually operate at a frequency that will actually hurt your ears, and you have no idea.
Tinnitus.
So if a mechanic is next to an air leak 24/7, well, I won't say 24/7, but in their 8 to 10 hour a day, 5-6 day a week, it actually causes hearing damage.
Yep.
If the compressor room doesn't have sound deadening.
Yep.
So, like, these are things, this is why I put it on the survey. Okay? Because number 4 would be, is somebody's radio playing music that the rest of the shop doesn't fucking want to listen to?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I was listening to it at a regular volume. It just so happened that day he wasn't feeling it. Same music I would play all the time. I play classic rock because that's what he liked. He didn't like it that day.
he heard that one song for the 18,000th time, and it's like, I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't want to hear it ever again. I'm destroying the stereo.
Yeah, it just punched it and didn't even break it, but it actually broke like the variable resistor in the volume dial. So that's all that broke was the volume dial. Very like pointed execution of that. He's like, I'm gonna damage your radio, but it'll still turn on, but you just can't fuck with the volume now. So that was fun.
Well, okay, so
So I was there.
You've been shown the door at Ford.
Yeah.
What happened next?
I went to a specifically transmission shop because that's
okay. Was it a Mr. Transmission downtown? Because there were lots of those back in the day.
Halton.
Okay.
Halton Transmission.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm still homies with the owners now. I still talk to them. We chat every day, every other day. You know, he's got a problem with something. I have a problem with something. We just bounce stuff off each other. Just sold tire machines, actually. Like, but yeah, I went there, and I was there for another few years, and I was just doing re and re's all day. And
were you doing the rebuilds or just the re and re?
Just the re and re's. And like I had lost my driver's license when I was going through all of this bullshit before. So they took advantage of the fact that I didn't have a driver's license. They were paying me as a licensed tech like way under what should be like industry standard. But they knew that like if I was trying to go to any other formal workplace, they'd like laugh at me and be like, well, where's your driver's abstract? You know what I mean? So they were like really taking advantage of the fact that they had me by the balls because they knew I needed a job and it was close to home and I wasn't driving at the time. So they made it, let's just say like that's how the rich stay rich kind of thing. They have a lot of money. And that was a very good business plan on their end, but not in the long term. If they had paid me more, I probably would have stayed. Because I did like
interesting thought. Now, because there'll be a lot of, you know, there are leaders that listen, there are owners that listen, and they may take sides with. They won't necessarily, because I've seen the P&L and of a lot of shops, both ones that I've worked with, worked for, and consulted for, and that insurance payment. That group insurance payment can be dramatically affected by somebody who doesn't necessarily meet all of the typical insurance requirements.
Yeah,
and
I'm not driving vehicles. I'm not on the insurance. Right?
You are still on liability because you
Yeah,
have to be. You
absolutely.
may not be driving anything, but you still are part of the business. You still have to. You are still a liable member of staff. You
Yeah.
still have to be quasi insured. So it's still an affecting factor. And if whatever happens, if you touch something and something happens and you're not on the insurance, that bad things happen. And you look at, I don't know if it was a franchise store. It doesn't matter whether it is or it isn't. But
All right, so
when you have a member of your staff who doesn't have a driver's license, and there's a reason why they don't have a driver's license, it's not that just they've never got it,
hmm
that makes owners and leaders scared. And I understand where they come from.
yeah,
So I've seen both sides of the coin, and I can see it both sides of the coin. You need to make a living, and they need to have work done. And for them, the offset cost, at least fundamentally, they said, okay, we're paying significantly more for you to be here than we do for anybody else to be here. They may look at it as this is a fair shake. We're giving you an opportunity to make a living. We get the benefit of getting, an extra $1,000 a month of profit out of you. Now, that may not be the case. I don't know. But that's from that side. I can see that side. And it's not necessarily an evil villain thing,
hmm
because
No,
I've
it's an
seen
interesting perspective.
I've seen the evil villain. The evil villains the evil villains are truly evil.
hmm
Like, they'll do things like not say that they have benefits and not actually have benefits, and when they go to make a claim, go, you don't actually have benefits, and we're not talking small amounts of money. I've seen tax fraud. I've seen, like, it can get very, very, very petty, very evil, very
Oh yeah,
lawyer shit involved. So whilst I don't agree, I would also say I don't disagree,
yeah.
but it's circumstances, and I'm not you. I wasn't them. I don't know the circumstances. I don't know any of those things. So circumstantially, we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. So I got tired of that, of basically feeling like getting walked over, right?
Mm.
Because I'm like, I do all your re-and-re's. I'm the most capable person in the shop. I'm the one with the 310S, other than like your transmission rebuilder and this and that, and they had a couple other guys working like installers and stuff, but I was doing a majority of the work, and I was like, all right, you know what? No. My buddy had a rotary shop, fucking Doritos, and he needed another person. So I went there and I worked with him for again another 2 years, and he decided halfway through that shop that he wanted to pursue a career in truck driving. Got his license, everything. He'd be gone for weeks on end. It was like it was me there, just me. The four walls. There was no windows. It was a big shop, but it was just four walls, and I sort of got to my wits' end with that one. And funny enough, that takes us to where I am now, where my boss now is actually someone that I had met back and like continued to be like friends with back when I was working at that shop that I was doing like that $15 an hour flat rate,
Mm-hmm.
when he was renting a unit in that area doing his own thing. So I've known him for 12 years now. And he was coming by, yo, Cam, find me a tech, find me a tech. Like, you have CMH, like you have this great network of people. Like, find me a tech, find me a tech. I sent him a couple texts, they didn't work out, and I started to get frustrated at my job again. Like, I'm like, there's nobody here, there's no support. Like, I'm making the phone calls, I'm making the invoices, I'm doing the work, like I'm booking the work. Like, there's only so much time in a day. Like, how profitable can it really be? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And started to get really stressed out, taking my work home with me, like 3 a.m., still on the phone, talking to customers, like doing the Facebook, like forums, like texting people, like, oh yeah, we can do that here. And then they message me and they want a price right away. And it's just like, it just became way too much. That I I probably snowballed it because I was being so nice to people and like I couldn't keep up with the work, but I'd rather not be able to keep up with the incoming work than not be able to put out the work that's there and then have nobody showing up. Um, so
It's
that's
a double-edged sword. Lucas Underwood and anybody running their own shops, especially small shops, and they're in that. There's a lot of people out there running small shops or just starting small shops
so I
because
was
they're in a position where they're frustrated at the dealer or frustrated at, they're frustrated at the independent they're at, and they go, I can do this on my own. And it's a double-edged sword for small owners because you have to have enough work in the pipeline
mm-hmm.
to keep yourself busy all of the time. Because as a sole proprietor, as an individual person who is chief cook and bottle washer, right? You're making sales calls, you're doing the service advisor work, you're doing the boss work, doing the billing and trying to figure out how to pay your parts suppliers and who to pay for parts and what to get for parts and what to get for oils and this and that, all while still trying to turn the wrenches and fix the cars
And
maybe you're a small shop, right?
and get
Like,
everything in. So I got the test trial on that because it wasn't my shop, but I got thrown into the coals, and I was like, I wanted to open my own shop, and now I'm like, you know what? we're gonna put a pin in that.
there's a lot of folks out there that would love to have been in your shoes,
I got
right?
the
To
very
be able to test trial run in your own shop without actually having the responsibility of it effectively being your own shop, that's a pretty good nut.
yeah. So like I've experienced it, right? And then my buddy kept coming by and saying, "Yo, Cam, find me a tech, find me a tech, find me a tech. Come by after work every day, like 8, 9 o'clock, and just come like chill. How you doing? Like you got anyone that would work for me?" And one day I was just like, "Yo, I found you a tech." And he's like, "Who?" And I'm like, "Fucking me. Let's go."
Me.
And he's like, "No." I'm like, "I'm done. I'm done here." And like he's friends with the guy that owned that shop. Like they're still friends. Like there's no beef, but he was like,
There might have been.
"No, there wasn't." They still like see each other and stuff. But they yeah, he was like, "Yo, just come do this. Come work on these Mercedes. Like you have the skill. Let's do it." And I've
So you're
been
now at a Mercedes, an independent but Mercedes focused shop.
yeah, and we do
Ah, cool.
exotics. We do exotics as well. Like we'll do Ferrari, McLaren, uh, Lamborghini. What else? Rolls Royce. Like all the expensive shit that people like to look fancy in. Um, and yeah, mostly Benzes and like BMW and Land Rover. So
Okay.
we work on all the out of warranty shit. These guys, I don't know where they make their money. Some of these customers that pay these bills, it's crazy, crazy.
Well, so don't forget, one of the big things that we know here in Canada is that there's a lot of folks that are significantly over leveraged. Like they're significantly over leveraged, so they may not be able to afford it for long. But there are still lots of folks out there making really good money, enjoying what they do every day, and finding ways to double up on income. And they've got passive income, they've got investments, and there's a lot of folks out there doing really well, really legit, working really hard, and going. This is most of them probably at the age of about 40, 45 finally get to that point where they can afford to spend a $2,000 a month car payment and go out and get something that they want to drive.
Yeah, and
Like it's
it's really nice because my boss has like built up this client list for the past 10 years. So he's actually like he has grinded to get to where we are now. That now he's got like we're booking 2 weeks out, and a lot of our jobs are like not cheap. They're like at least a $2,000 CP on 50 to 60% of every job that comes in. Like, yeah, you could get a service A or a service B, like you know what I mean. But like a
Hmm.
lot of people that come in for those, and we say you need brakes, and like legit, they need brakes.
Well,
We're
I
not
just
fucking run
you're
people.
conceptually
Okay.
remembering here. Let's go again. We're talking about Mercedes again. We'll circle back to my first couple of weeks to really understanding what Benz was like when I started as tower there. You know, back then they had the VEP program. They still have it today. And VEP here in Canada, corporate Mercedes-Benz Canada own majority of the dealerships in Canada. I was working at the flagship store at head office at the time,
Which location
and
is that?
VEP. Pardon?
Which location is that?
Word, Midtown,
Okay.
Eglinton, and it'll come to me. I think the closest major intersection at the time was like Eglinton and Weston, but I don't think that's the right one. Eglinton, it's on Eglinton. I'll figure it out later and I'll tell you. I can't
Yeah.
remember, but it's head office is at Midtown. So the first time I saw a GL come in, their big S7 passenger SUV, and it was right before warranty up, so 57,000 kilometers, give or take. It was in for its D service, 60,000 kilometers. And the lease was about to be up. So at the time, 57,000 kilometers, it needed 4 tires,
Mm-hmm.
needed brakes front and rear, genuinely.
Like, yeah,
20%, give or take, front and rear.
and that's a heavy vehicle. 60,000
It's
kilometers.
not light.
That's
And
that's good.
it needed transmission service plus the D service and all of that. And I think the bill was $9,000,
Yeah,
give or take.
they're probably putting
4
Benz
tires.
tires, and it's
Yeah,
all $1,000 rotors kind of thing. Like,
something like that. And to add to that, it also came in with a check engine light on, which at the time I think they were doing all of the DEF,
the field service campaigns.
the tanks. They were doing tank replacements.
Mhm.
So it was like $4,000 in warranty on top of that. So like the bill at the end of the day that we were, effectively getting paid, right? So $9,000 to the customer, $4,000 or $5,000 warranty. So it was like a $14,000 bill, and it was like during my first week understanding that that's a normal thing.
It's like, what the fuck?
It's like, it's a level of I won't even necessarily say wealth, but just a level wealth is probably the best word. Level of wealth that some of us don't, even as we fix them, don't truly comprehend.
Yeah.
And to go to one story further, I don't remember how long I'd been there, but it was my good friend Phil Sr. that got me the job, fundamentally, that got me the job there. And he was describing a sales transaction that occurred. And I don't know the name of the gentleman, and I never got to meet the gentleman, whatever. But this person came into the showroom at Midtown, and Midtown was capable of selling anything that Mercedes sold, because you had to be certified to be able to sell SLs, SLRs, SLS, Maybach, and the whole range. You had to have somebody certified at the store that was capable of fixing it in order to sell it. Not just somebody who could sell it, but somebody who was certified in the shop to fix it.
That
So
was
we
like,
had
yeah,
the
when we worked
SLR,
at Ford, they had the GT shit coming in.
right?
In
So
like
same
2015,
concept.
2016, they were like, you need the clean room, this and that. Is your dealer
Yep.
approved? Like, you need this special
Yep.
training from Benz to be like, hey, are you allowed to work on this 57 or 62? You know what I mean?
Yep.
Right?
And only the Benz folks out there are going to know the difference. And when we say, oh, you got to be licensed to work on a 57 to 62, there's going to be a very select few that know exactly what that means.
It's
I digress. Because
intruders.
and specifically, you needed to have the hoist, the specific hoist, in order to lift the SLRs, because you actually have to bolt the SLR to the hoist. Because anytime you do any work and you take the engine out, guess what happens if it's not bolted down? Thump! Off the hoist it goes.
So my buddy actually, he would actually be a really good person for you to talk to. My buddy Spencer. He works at Grand Touring in.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, like he He's a Aston Martin certified technician, and he's getting his Lamborghini certifications. He did a 73-hour warranty service on a Bugatti Chiron 2019. You have to take that entire car apart to change the spark plugs. All the carbon panels off the side, like 73-hour warranty service. Yeah, he posted
70.
it.
That
He
is
posted it
2
on,
full weeks on one car. On purpose.
yeah, he posted it on CMH actually and deleted it because he's like, shit, I signed an NDA. But he posted it back again because I was like, post it, like, who cares? It's just a car. Like, you're not posting a license plate. Like, you're just working on a car. Could be anywhere.
Well, the downside being is there is only so many of them, right?
Yeah, but like he wasn't showing well, his car's fucked. He was just process of taking it apart and putting it back together.
That's another rabbit hole that we won't go down today, is talking about social media ethics and proficiency and professionalism. That is a whole different bucket to talk about, and there is a fairly clear cut and dry line between what some folks think is acceptable and what some folks think is acceptable, and it is very different from side to side.
Yeah,
But to finish that quick story, the level of wealth that you experience, especially grand touring and talking about a Bugatti Chiron or Chiron or
whatever.
Sharon, I don't even know how to say it.
Costs too much money for me to care.
It's this individual walked into the showroom and didn't like his I believe it was his SL. No, he had an SL. The story is he had an SL. And he didn't like it. And he walked in the showroom and he talked to the salesperson that he always talked to. It was just like a regular conversation. It's like, I don't like it anymore. It's not me. I need something simple, something fast, but simple.
Mm-hmm.
And in the showroom happened to be a C63 in red, I believe it was. It was beautiful. It's like,
507?
What's that? What's that? And so it's our new C63, and it just came in. We literally just finished detailing it and put in the showroom about an hour ago. It's like, okay, I'll take that. It's like, okay, and conversation keeps going, and I guess they get to the back of the showroom, and there happened to be a Maybach. It was a Maybach sitting in the back. It was a 57 sitting out back, and again, I don't recall the color, but it's irrelevant. It's like, is that the new one? I've been waiting. Like my 57 is coming due. The lease is coming due. Is that the new one? It's like, yes. Does it have all the same features as mine does? I'll have to qualify that for sure for you, but I'm pretty sure it has all of the same features as yours does, but it actually has the new seats in the back. Has a couple more. It's no longer, I can't remember what the number is. It's no longer 10-way adjustable. It's now 30-way adjustable in the back. It's
Right.
like, okay,
Wow.
I'll take that. I'll take that one. It's like, okay. Walking around, it's like, wait, that's a 57. Yes. My wife doesn't like the bigger one. She can have the 57. Do you have a 60? Do you have a 62? It's like, I don't have one on the lot, but I'm pretty sure we have one in our back lot. Let me double check. It's like, if you've got the 62 and it's not the brown that I don't like, I'll take that one too.
Jeez.
So he's walked in, he's flipped an SL into a C63. He's dropped somewhere in the neighborhood of $800K, give or take, on a 57 and a 62, and it's just
Average
nothing.
This guy.
And I realize that was a really long-winded story, folks, and I apologize. But fundamentally speaking, what I'm talking about is understanding of wealth. That gentleman has walked into a Mercedes-Benz store and bought 3 cars, like most of us would walk into Mark's Work Warehouse and buy 3 T-shirts.
Flagship cars too.
Like,
not walking in there and buying a CLA 250 times 3. Like, he's walking in there and pulling
he's dropped
P63 and who knows, was it Performance Pack 507? Probably was.
It doesn't really matter if it was. The point is, he's dropped 7 digits. He's dropped 2 commas, and they never talked price. They never talked anything like any. It's just, do you have it? Yes, I'll take it. Thank you, and go away. And that it again goes to another adage: when you provide service at an exceptional value and a level that your guests appreciate, enjoy, and come back for. Price no longer is a conversation. It's when can you have it done, or do you have it?
Yeah.
When can I have it in my possession? Or when can it be done? And that is from a technician point of view, a salesperson's point of view, a service advisor's point of view. I experienced that as a service advisor after 2 years of writing service. You effectively wrote service yourself when you were working in a couple of different shops you were in, where you were basically doing everything yourself, especially almost in the last place where you were working on Doritos, doing 3/4 to 100% of running a shop without it being your own shop. You were basically writing service as well as turning wrenches.
Yeah.
You know that when you build up a client base like that, and now the gentleman you're working for now has grinded his days, his weeks, his months, his years, building a client base of people who appreciate his workmanship, appreciate his business, appreciate the people who work for him, to a level where it's no longer how much is it? It's now, can I get it in on Tuesday and can I have it back by Wednesday?
Yeah. And we try to offer that. We try our best. We try our best to get it done. We actually work like sort of on like a. I actually like how my service advisor does this. Everybody drop their car off at 9. Everybody pick them up at 5. Drop them all off. Figure it out. We're not waiting. Oh, some guy's coming in 10 minutes. No. We have all the cars for the day. And we will organize our day accordingly based on parts availability and what the car needs. And it actually is so efficient.
I think one of the reasons that works in your store,
it's because it's
I believe
upper echelon of people. It's not like Chevy Sonic.
I don't think so.
No?
My personal opinion is I don't think so. I think your service advisor has a significantly high EQ and has educated your guest base to say, this is what's unacceptable and this is what's acceptable. We expect you to drop off at 9.
Yeah.
And you should expect it done by 5.
Or the next day, or however many, like however long the service is.
Yeah. The expectation is you as a guest. These are our expectations of you as a guest. And these are the expectations you should have of us as a guest.
Mm-hmm.
And we are going to nail it every single time.
And we try. But he does his job. This guy is actually, you know how a lot of technicians complain about their service advisors? It's always technicians at the dealers especially bitching. This motherfucker's giving this person all the gravy. This, I'm not getting any good. I'm getting all warranty, no CP. And I'm like, yo, I'm hourly. I will never go back to the dealer, ever. And after having him as a service advisor, I actually don't think there's anybody that can top that. And he's not mechanically minded. He can fix his own car. But the way that he...
But they don't have to be.
The way he deals...
Good ones don't have to be.
It's insane. I love it. I'll hear him on the phone where I'll be like, hey, like, we need more time with this car. Like, this is it. And he's like, I don't want to tell the customer. Like, fuck, it is what it is. And he'll get on the phone. Oh, absolutely, sir. Yes, no problem. And he'd be like, okay, I got this, like, a day or two. And I'm like, how did you... Okay, not asking questions. And he's...
Like I said, I think...
It is excellent.
I said this in a post a couple of days ago on LinkedIn, and we were talking about it. You don't... Because I've recanted one of my previous statements from a long time ago that you need to have technical savvy to be a service advisor. I've amended that. You don't. You have to be able to listen. You have to be empathetic to both the techs that you work with and the guests you work with.
But you have to be is being able to.
You have to be able to listen.
Yeah.
Service advisors who listen don't have to talk much.
Mm-hmm.
They don't, because they know exactly what the guest expects, and they know exactly what the technicians expect, and they know how to make it work.
Yeah.
They just somehow make it work. And that's why there's such a dramatic difference between a service advisor that sells 0.8 to 1.1 to 1.2 to 1.8 and the ones that sell like 2.5 to 3 hours a work order. The ones that are consistently selling like 2.5 to 3 hours a work order, you'll see someone who is driven, who's ambitious, who's clearly communicating, but most importantly, is a listener.
Yeah.
They listen. You could just see it. You could. Somebody described. I was watching this lady who plays the organ at the Royal Albert Park Theater, and I can't remember the name of the individual who was coming in and watching her practice. And it's someone large, and I showed it to my mother-in-law, and she knew exactly who it was. It was Unita, or something like that. And she described it as this person who was not only listening with their ears, but listening with their eyes, watching every motion, listening to every inflection of the music. That is a service advisor. That's a top tier service advisor, one that's listening with their eyes, listening with their ears, listening with every ounce of their being to know exactly how to deal with that guest, exactly how to deal with that technician. Like, that's top tier kind of stuff.
And he's dealt with some real annoying customers. They'll drop off their car and like, sir, we have to pull your engine out. It's 30 hours. And they're like, is it done? And he's like, no, it's not done yet, man. And he is so frustrated. Like, I hear him behind the scenes. Like, I'm there with him. So this fucking guy keeps calling me, whatever. Then he picks up, he's like, hello, sir. Like, how are you doing today? And it's like, you see both sides of it. But at the same time, it's like, this guy kills it. He fucking kills it. Car came in with an oil leak. 7 Series. 2 weeks ago. New BMW 7 Series. Like 2018, 2019. So not new, but newish. And he goes, Cam, you called valve covers on that? Do you know how much the labor is on that? And I'm like, probably around 22 hours. And he's like, fuck you mean 22 hours? I just looked it up and it's 19 and a half. How do you know it's that high? And I'm like, because the engine has to come out. It's an N63. Like, we're not doing this in the car. And he's like, how the fuck did you guess that price? I'm like, because I've done it 3 times. Like, buddy, let's go. And he's like, okay, well, warranty's paying for it, like aftermarket warranty. And I'm like, all right, fucking quote him what it takes. Like, let's do it. The customer's like, what the fuck? Warranty's paying for it. But like, he was like, what?
it
Okay, I guess I'll
experience
sell it.
experience gets you there, and high quality service advisors get you there. It
My
really
job is
changes
done
your
and
life.
it's
And then
done.
talk about it as high value leaders. High value leaders will change your life too. And I think that's a great segue into trying to shore this up. What's your piece of advice? Like, we've got your start, we got your middle, we got your story up to this point. You've been through some shit. You've learned a whole lot of shit. You've got, and I think one of the keys in there is that you've had a couple of good mentors along the way, and
Absolutely.
they may not necessarily have been great role models, but they've been perhaps good. Some of them were good mentors with tools, and some of them have been good mentors on other things as well.
Yeah.
Which leads us to our piece of advice. What's your one piece of advice for mechanics out there to either be happier, healthier, or more productive?
Network.
Network.
Network the fuck out of everything that you do. When you are working on a car that you are not familiar with, and the service information that you're provided with, either being that your employer doesn't provide you with it and you have to go search for it on your own, or your employer does provide it and you're having trouble navigating it, or it's just not enough and you're stuck at a wall. Be able to speak to someone that knows this stuff, that you may not have anything to give back to them in that very moment, but they may help you. And the second
Mm.
that they've helped you, start to talk to them about things other than just that car. Right? Start to build a personal relationship with that person, and that person is going to come back and they're going to ask you for help on other things because they're going to trust you. And they're going to say, well, you were working on that car, so clearly you're working on cars of these calibers that I'm working on. So maybe you're just having a bad day with that car. They don't know that you've never touched this car before. They have no idea. But what they will come back to you. And then soon enough, you're going to start speaking with a whole bunch of people, and you're going to start to create a network of technicians that when I have a BMW come in and I'm like, fuck, what's wrong with this? I have immediately in my phone someone that I'm going to message and be like, hey man, I got this voltage at this sensor. Like, this doesn't sound right. Oh no, change that. You're fine. Like immediately.
It's an invaluable asset.
And networking, it not just like in your job, but like also in life. Like it carries on, right? Don't have too many friends. You don't want to have 300 friends that you only share half a megabyte of information with every day. You'd rather have one friend that you give all the information to. But when it comes to accelerating your life in this trade, that is also something I want to talk about. I know it's been an hour and a half already of this podcast, but I don't think you care. I wanted to talk about like how I started CMH was because of this. Like the reason I'm on your podcast is because you posted in my group looking for technicians, right? So I was in the back of level 2 in Mohawk College, and I was looking at what's that group? The Wrenching Network. Some guy posted, can I vacuum my AC system by hooking up a vacuum line from my engine and revving the throttle? And I was like, I've had enough. And I made the group Canadian Mechanic Hangout. I didn't want to sound like Wrenching Network, but I also didn't want to, I wanted to sound like Wrenchers Hangout because they had their little side thing. So I made that. I drew the fucking logo for it on a napkin at a bar, like literally did that logo that we have for the group. I drew it on a napkin and I made it in Microsoft Paint. Like it's completely homegrown. Like this is like I made this group 7 years ago, and I was in the back of my class and I made a post in Wrenching Network and I was like, oh, fuck all you American fucks. Everyone needs to have a 310S to get in here. This needs to be regulated. And that has having this, like, I've met so many people through the group that have told me, like, if I didn't have this, like, I don't know how I would have not found information. I don't know how I would have not connected with technicians that deal with the same things as I do. I got guys in.
It's hard, man, right? Because realistically speaking, it's a lot like, for us going to, you started at school. So you started it while at school. That's the bulk of unless you're job hopping.
That's where
unless you're job hopping, you don't get diversity, right? Especially if you started a dealer and stay at the dealer, right? You only get Dodge stores, or you only get Dodge stores, or you only get Ford stores, or you only get those mechanics. You don't get a diversity. So heaven forbid you end up being, the recon tech for that store where it's everything. You have no idea what to do on a Mazda if you spent, 95% of your career on Fords. You have no idea where the first place to start is. You don't even know what the diagnostic scan tools called, let alone where to start looking for information.
Actually, Mazdas, you can use IDS. You can use an IDS.
Fair, but
I have used
principle none the same. But the network, I love how you brought up networking, because it's an invaluable asset. It's a tremendously invaluable asset, and I think you clarified in there really well as well. You don't necessarily want to have 300 friends. You want to network, and you want to spend time, energy, and effort networking, but also be careful on who you say yes to.
Yeah.
Right? You got to say, as much as you want to network, you got to say no to an awful lot of people, or careful who you give information to an awful lot of people, because some people will just literally blow up your phone every single day.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you do this? 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 Or can you do this for me? Can you do this for me? Can you do this for me? And as soon as you need some kind of return, it's like, hey, I got this issue, or hey, I need some help, or whatever the case may be, full on ghost mode occurs.
So when that
you got to be careful. You got to vet who you're talking to.
Yeah. But I mean, like, fortunately for me, or for anyone else that's in this group, is like, you have a pretty good chance if you're talking to someone that they're pretty okay. And like if you make a post and you say, "Hey, I got a problem with this car. This is my diagnosis up to this step." You know, like if somebody posts in the group and they say, "Oh, I'm having trouble with these brakes on this car, like it's squealing or some shit,"
Mm-hmm.
like not like actually really weird, like it's just like you're not doing your job correctly, we'll decline the post. Every post has to be
Mm.
approved. We have like like 10 members across Canada that approve these posts. There's
Nice.
It's not just me. There's like I'll drop some names right now: Chris Pucklix, Jamie Holmes, Jordan
Mm-hmm.
Penny, um, Electrical Whiz. That guy's insane. Matt Hale. He actually was one of the first guys that ran it with me. Me, Mike,
Mm-hmm.
and Matt that started it. But we also have guys like out east, like Chris Clow. Um, Shout out to him. He actually just left the Volkswagen dealer last week. Started his own shop, Countryside Automotive in Prince Edward Island. So
Nice.
good for him. He's a moderator in the group as well.
East Coaster.
Yeah, yeah. We had business cards that we made, actually like CMH business cards that we would like hand out to technicians. And my parents went on a trip and they actually delivered them to his dealership. They were out
Nice.
there, yeah. Then another guy,
Nice.
Tyler Vowels. He owns Petrol House in West Kelowna. He basically does what I do, but just
Uh-huh.
in Kelowna. Yeah, we got a
He's
whole
okay out there right now, eh? That's
yeah
Kelowna's been pretty rough last little bit.
yeah. I haven't fully checked in with him, but he's been all right.
My
Um,
little sister had to get air evac'd out.
fuck. Yeah, it's a beautiful
So
place.
I'm waiting.
Ooh,
I reached out to my dad. I haven't heard from in a couple of days. I reached out to my dad to see how it's going because I haven't heard from her in ages. She
hopefully
was she
everything's
was in
okay.
a tight spot. They had to like I said, they had to air evac my sister out. So the West Coasters aren't necessarily doing so hot out there, but
No,
it's nice to have the networking and now. So tell everybody where to find it.
it's Facebook Canadian Mechanic Hangout. If you're watching this video, you probably saw it posted in CMH.
Awesome,
But
cool.
yeah, feel free to post it. But yeah, we literally like there's a lot of argument and a lot of banter sometimes. Some guys don't get along, butt heads, and that's fine. We'll let the dumpster fires burn. Um, but what we really want to bring is like a positive discussion around anything that someone's having an issue with, whether it be something so small or like something large. If it's an interesting issue, and it's not like, bro, you should have just read the service manual. Like you're trying to like cut the line here. You're trying to
Mm.
take the easy way out. We're not we're not here for that. But like there was an example last week. We like there's Facebook made a group chat for the group. So like
Mm-hmm.
everyone in the group gets automatically added to this group chat, and there was like a level nothing girl, like 16 years old, she has square box Chevy, and I put a fuel pump relay cutoff in my truck, and now it doesn't start. And I clicked the profile, and I was like, like let's help you. Like
Mm-hmm.
let's actually not be assholes right now. Like, you have no experience, and you're coming to the internet for help from us. Turns out, I don't know, something shorted out. Now she needs a fuel pump. She put a fuel pump in it. It works. But like being welcoming to newcomers in the trade is also something that like I am very forward on. Um, I can't speak for everyone in the group because I know there's some old fucks in there like who we accept everyone. You show us your 310S, you're in, right? Even if we don't like you, we don't decide that, right? Like we can't be like, oh, I don't like
But
that.
I think that is fairly synonymous with our trade, and I think that's one of the things that we need to figure out. We need to figure out a better way to deal with it
Yeah.
because the old curmudgeons that don't seem to understand where the trade is going, and more importantly,
Oh,
they don't
exactly.
necessarily understand how to deal with not just the generation next, but two generations down. Because if you've been in the trade for 25, 30 years, you're now two generations removed from those who are coming in.
Yeah.
and they don't necessarily know how to treat them, how to talk to them, how to behave around them. And you know what? That has been a challenge for every generation, whether you're talking about the trade or not. Right? We've got to come up with a better way, and we've got to come up with a more positive way to deal with each other, regardless of how many years we've been in the trade. Right? It doesn't matter how many years we've been in the trade. It doesn't matter how old we are.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, I think we need to improve our level of respect for each other, how we speak, who we speak to, the tone, the cadence with which we speak, how we carry ourselves. I think if we do that as an industry and put that in our toolbox as a thing that we have to use every day, we have to use a level of respect that we didn't use yesterday. We got to level it up today over tomorrow, over yesterday, and we got to level up our level of professionalism day over day. I think if we all do that, even if it's just 0.001% better today than it was yesterday, if we all do that continuously, we're going to go places that we've never gone before, because I think we need to do it in order to overcome the hurdles that are coming next. We've got hydrogen coming. We've got, in a big way, we've got full EVs coming in a big way. We got to be safe. We got to be
I
efficient. We got
love
to make
EV.
money. We got to,
I,
like, there's so much coming that we need to be mindful of, that I think the only way that we're going to get through it from both a mental and physical standpoint is to be more positive and be more respectful.
yeah.
So I think that's a great way to put a period on this episode, to really shout it out, to say thank you to the folks that are listening and to watching. Thank you to CMH. Thank you,
Yeah.
Cam, for taking the time, energy, and effort.
Absolutely. And you know what? I can't wait because I know that you and Jamie have been speaking. And I went to his house the other day, and him and I were doing some stuff there. Uh, Helped him fix his Model T actually. Um, but that I actually can't wait to see. You get him on
I'm
here.
looking forward to talk to Jamie.
You guys have
And
nailed things down.
for those that are at the ending credits here, so to speak, before the outro rolls, that are listening, I'm not gonna. You've heard it once during this episode already. You're gonna have to figure out who it is, but I'm gonna leave it there. Jamie is not a unknown individual. We'll leave it at that. And folks, I'm really looking forward. I've looked forward to talking to Cam, but Jamie is an individual that has made a fairly large transformative difference to the automotive industry in Canada.
Yep,
So,
absolutely. He is. We were talking about mentors earlier, about how I have positive
yeah,
mentors. Um, I could call him right now with a completely personal issue, and he would give.
he sounds like he's that kind of guy.
Yeah.
So
Him
I'm
and I
looking
are-
forward to having a full blown, like, I've just been doing a little bit of messaging back and forth, but I'm looking forward to a full blown conversation with the man. So
Yeah.
I appreciate the introduction. I appreciate the time for tonight, Cam. I really do.